Hold on a second, let me get this opened. Oh. Hi there, welcome back to the channel, and if you're new here then welcome to the channel. My name is Shivani and I'm a gouache artist and creative entrepreneur based in the sunny city of Chennai in the south of India. In case you're new here, through my channel I create tutorials on how to work with gouache and improve your skills as a gouache painter, and also how to improve your skills as a creative entrepreneur. So if those are topics that interest you, hit the subscribe button below. In today's video, we're talking all about this gouache palette of mine. When I first got this palette, I created a video to show you how I set up the palette, and also I swatched all of the colors that I owned. In case you missed that video, I'm linking to it up here and in the description so you can check that out. For today, we're going to be doing a couple of things. Firstly, I have abused this palette over the last couple of months. I've traveled with it, I've been painting in my sketchbook a lot, so there are parts of it that have gotten quite dirty. I have dipped my brush from one color into another color, which is not great practice, but I'm a bit of a messy painter, so it happens. Colors have slightly spilled here and there, and the lid is quite dirty also, so we're going to be cleaning up all of that, and some of the colors need to be refilled, so I'll be doing that as well. I'll take you through all of it. Think of it as a general palette maintenance video, and I'll also be adding some medium into some of the colors that have thickened up to just show you how I make sure I maintain the consistency over time as well. Additionally, I've got 4 new colors of gouache that I'm really excited about. So from Winsor & Newton, I have got Permanent Alizarin Crimson and I've got Indigo. All of my existing colors in the palette are Winsor & Newton. I've tried out a couple of other brands before, I wasn't too happy with them. But from my recent travels to Singapore, I also picked up 2 tubes of Holbein. We don't get this in India at the moment, but I found it at an art supply store there and I got excited. So I picked up 2 colors, which is Naples Yellow and Cobalt Turquoise. I've been meaning to pick up Cobalt Turquoise Light from Winsor & Newton, so once I saw this I thought why not try it out. And I have Naples Yellow Deep already in my palette, but I thought let me try out Naples Yellow as well, because sometimes it can be a good mixing color. So in addition to general maintenance of my palette and cleaning everything up, I'm also going to be adding in these 4 colors to the palette, so you can see how that's done as well. Before we get started, let me give you a quick run through of all the materials and tools I have in front of me. Firstly, of course, I have my airtight gouache palette, which we're going to be going into shortly. I've got a couple of paint brushes. I'm using some of my lesser expensive paint brushes too. I'll be using it to clean up some of the paint. I've then got my new tubes of gouache that I told you about, which I'll be filling into my palette. I've got a waste piece of cloth. I've got this spray bottle in case I need to spritz my paints with water. I also have this eyedropper, so if I need to add in more drops of water, I can use this. Then I've got this blending medium. So this is the Winsor & Newton blending medium, which helps slow the drying for watercolor and gouache as well. So that's what I use when I want to keep my paints inside my palette fresh for longer, because I live in Chennai and it's extremely hot here, so the paints can tend to dry out a lot faster. The blending medium helps me keep them fresh and creamy for a longer time. I've also got some toothpicks here, which I use solely for this purpose. I use it to push the paints into my palette wells. You'll see me using it later on. The eyedropper tool is also useful for putting the blending medium as drops into the paint. I've got some water here, I've got a palette knife, and I've got my box where I store all of my gouache colors. So if any of my colors need a refill, I'm going to take the tube from here and fill it up. Okay, so let's start by opening up this palette. The palette also, by the way, comes with this little plastic thing here which can be used to push the colors in. So if that works for you, you can just go ahead and use this, but I personally prefer using toothpicks to do that. Okay, so let's look at all the issues. Firstly, some of the paint, as you can see, has become slightly drier than I would like it, so I'm going to be rehydrating those. Then there are touches of one color inside another color, like I've got some yellow inside this blue, things like that. So I need to clean that up and make sure the colors don't mix together. Then we've got all of this paint build up on the top of these walls, which I would also like to clean up. And when I had initially filled this palette, I had ended up putting too much of these two colors because I had only that much left in my tube and I wanted to empty it out, but that was a huge mistake. It ended up kind of ruining my lid, but I'm going to clean all of that today. Now at least I've used some of the paint, so the level has gone down, but I would definitely not recommend filling these wells more than about 65 to 70% to keep it nice and neat. And then we have some of these, like the yellow here, which is empty, so I'll refill that. And I'm going to be filling in 4 new colors. So for that I'm going to need 4 completely clean wells, which as you can see I don't have even one of. They all have some amount of dirt in them, so I'm going to have to clean that up as well. The first thing I'll do is I'll take this off. So this is a silicone layer here, which is what keeps the paint really fresh and keeps the entire thing airtight. So that comes off. And now the first thing I'll do is I'll go and clean this lid out completely, and I'll also clean this. I might use an old toothbrush to kind of brush it up nicely, give it a really good rinse, and then we'll come back and get started with all of this. So I've washed the lid and the silicone and I've left them to dry under the fan. I'll bring it back at the end of this video so you can see what that looks like. For now, I'm just going to start cleaning out these walls. I'm doing this, I'm just trying to make sure none of these dried up scraps are falling into the wet paint. Now that that's done, the next thing I'll do is look at each individual well and lift off any color mixing that's happening. So like in this black, I've got some of my brilliant red violet here in the corner. I've got some yellow in it. So I'm going to start lifting off all of that. And if there are any edges where I feel the paint has dried up too much, I'm going to remove that as well. While I do this, I'm also just going to put some plain water into some of these wells because I want to clean the wells. So while I'm doing all of this, I'm just going to let them soak for a while so it'll be easier for me to clean up. now I'm ready for the next step, which is to clean up all of these empty wells. In case you're getting worried about owning a palette like this, because this looks like a very tedious process, which it definitely is. It's definitely not a simple process. It's not something you need to do too often. This is the first time I'm doing something so elaborate with my palette ever since I got it, which is I think over 6 months now. This is a cleanup which you can do once in 6 months or 1 year just to maintain the palette. I think that with this palette, the benefits outweigh the work that goes into maintaining it. This is something you need to do just once in a while, which I think is worth it, because this palette just helps reduce the friction from your painting process, because anytime you want to paint, your colors are laid out and ready to go. It's very easy to travel with, and if you're somebody who paints with your gouache regularly, then I definitely think that something like this is worth investing in, and it's worth the effort of spending some time every few months or every 6 months to maintain it. Got these nicely cleaned up now. Now I'm just going to refill some of the colors that I want to, and then I'm going to use the blending medium, put in a few drops into each well and stir them around with the toothpicks so I can get them all to a nice creamy consistency. See how smooth and creamy the colors are now looking once I've added in that blending medium. It just makes such a huge difference, and especially if you live in a hot place or a dry place and your paints can tend to dry out faster, this will really help you keep them going for longer. If I feel like my colors are getting dry every 2 to 3 months, I might top it up with a little bit more of the medium, but that's about it. It's just so satisfying to see them become like this, and overall I just like the process of maintaining my palette like this and taking care of my paints every now and then. It somehow makes me feel a lot more connected to my paints and makes me want to create more, which is really nice. The next thing I'll do is fill the 4 new colors that I've got into my palette. So I'm just going to first squeeze them out into the wells where I want them to go. This one is Naples Yellow, so I'm going to put it right here next to my Naples Yellow Deep. Like I said, filling your wells to about 60 to 70% is more than enough. I have made the mistake before of filling it too much, and I don't want to do that. So this one is Permanent Alizarin Crimson, which is a cool red. So I'm going to place that here. Then we've got Cobalt Turquoise, which is a blue-green. So that's going to go here with my other green and blue greens. And finally, we've got Indigo, which is a dark blue, of course. So I'm going to put that here. While we're at it, let me also swatch these quickly to show you what they look like. This is the Cobalt Turquoise. It's a really rich and bright pigment, which is what I love about it. And this is from Holbein. Then we've got the Naples Yellow, which is also from Holbein. This is my first time trying out this brand, and I really like how smooth and creamy the color is. This is Winsor & Newton Designer's Gouache Indigo. This is beautiful as well. It's been a really long time since I added new colors to my palette, so that's why I picked these up as a treat for myself. And finally, we've got the Crimson. I've been looking for a cool red that I might replace my primary red with in the future. So I need to see if this gives me similar and better mixes than what the primary red can, in which case I may end up replacing it later. I love how all four of them look. This is beautiful. I can totally imagine myself using them for multiple things. So now I'll follow the same process. I will add just a little bit of blending medium into these. Since they're new and fresh from the tube, I don't need to add too much, just a little bit so that they don't dry out over the next few months. And then I will use a toothpick and smooth those out as well, and we're almost done. You'll find over time that some colors tend to thicken up a lot faster than others. I find that happens with my burnt umber black and my reds. So those tend to sometimes require more TLC, so you may need to wet them a little more frequently than the other colors. So just be mindful of that, and as you use your colors, you'll also get more familiar with them. I'm just going to take a damp paper towel and clean up all the edges once again. And finally, let's get back to the lid. So I've washed them. Your silicone will get stains over time. That's completely normal, so don't worry about that. Fitting this back in perfectly, and this is very important because it's the silicone that really seals the box and makes it airtight. Once that's perfectly fitted, we can go ahead and close the box, and that's about it. In case you missed my first video about this palette, where I had initially got the palette and I set it up, be sure to click on the screen right now and check out that video. I'll see you all in the next one. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this. Bye for now.